need to find someone to cover.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are very rapidly approaching the moon. In case you can't tell, it is right here. Right on my mouse cursor. There's the moon. We'll have our own private solar eclipse before we commit to a lunar orbit insertion later on. To start things off with, we've got our basic housekeeping procedures for wake up today. Fuel cell O2 purging, storing the cryo tanks, and of course an MCC4 decision. And then lunar orbit insertion. So rest period comes to an end now. Let's do our fuel cell O2 purge. Give us a cryo stir. good here. And it looks like MCC4 has been scrubbed today. We will terminate our PTC now. And it looks like we are scheduled for a P52. Option 1.
Translation.
Hello, hello, hello. Today is the day we do lunar orbit insertion. Very exciting time in the Apollo space program. For the third time, we will be entering the sphere of influence of the moon. This time, we will make the landing. Here is the moon right here. We're about to enter our own personal solar eclipse, which is pretty cool. I mean, I always wanted my own personal solar eclipse. Of course, no one on the Earth can see said solar eclipse. So, pretty cool personal eclipse. In a few moments, we will need to begin our preparations for lunar orbit insertion, one of which is a test of the redundant equipment, which is meant to keep us safe in the event of an emergency. Also required for cabin cold soak, so it's very important that we test this equipment out. Here we can see our personal solar eclipse is beginning right now. This time, however, the moon will totally eclipse the sun. There will be no sun left to look at until we perform our lunar orbit insertion. A very exciting time. While that's going down, let's do our redundant component systems checkouts. Good. Good. Secondary coolant loop test. And we're looking good there so far. We just need to wait 5 minutes to confirm the results of the test. Looks good. Okay, now we just wait for our lunar orbit insertion information. And we look at this, is absolutely incredible. A personal solar eclipse, but this time the moon is actually bigger than the sun. And there it is. The perfect total solar eclipse. Here it is. LOI information received. We've got our state vector update in, target load complete, manual verb 66, and we are almost ready for a lunar orbit insertion. Now, this is a very, very exciting time. In a few moments, we will experience the sun coming out of a total solar eclipse. And we'll do our P52, verb 37, enter, 52, enter, verb 22, option 3. And star 23 is par for the course on this one. Right here. Denobula, anyone who's ever watched Star Trek, this is a meaningful star to them, yes. I must say that the Doctor on Star Trek Enterprise, that in sort of 2004 series Star Trek, the Denobulan Doctor, was absolutely my favorite character of the entire series. Jonathan Archer is a close second. Trip is my third favorite, but the Denobulan Doctor is just so funny. Now we've got Alphecca, or as I like to call it, Alpaca. Also very par for the course on this attitude. Nothing out of the unusual. We've got our perfect 5 balls. Perfect. We've hit the limits of the accuracy capable of being performed by the system, which is a good testament to our abilities. Hopefully one that will stay with us through the lunar module optics systems as well. Our GDC is aligned well within the nominal parameters. And now, of course, we just need to take us a little bit out of the gimbal lock here and move us in for the attitude for the burn. We've got our TEI data coming in very shortly. And here is the sun. Now at this point in time, we'll be beginning our preparations for our lunar orbit insertion. So verb 37, enter, 30, enter. The time of ignition for LOI is confirmed to be 75 hours, 55 minutes, 34.48 seconds. and that shows the same as the pad. Good. Delta V is minus 2892.6. Good. Minus 0425.3. Good. And minus 0006.9. Good. Proceed. Confirmed periapsis is 60.1. And, predicted periapsis is 60.1 nautical miles. Predicted apoapsis is 170.0 nautical miles, with a total delta V of 2923.7. And of course, the computer has not detected a cislunar trajectory, so it is still presenting apoapsis and periapsis relative to translunar trajectory. So, of course, these numbers are obviously wrong, but if you do a little bit of math and a little bit of physics, you could tell 170 by 60.1 is roughly where we'll end up. And our total delta V is 2923.7. Proceed on that. And the LOI is over an hour away so far, so we will just proceed 00 without setting the event timer. Now, of course, we need to begin digital autopilot preparations. So we will do CSM LM, use both AC and BD. Error rate will be 0.5 degrees per second, and our rate, we're going to increase to 0.2 degrees per second. And we will be using roll AC and permit quads A, B, C, and D. Proceed. The weight of the lunar module is, of course, going to be 33773, as we have not activated yet. And the weight for the command module is going to be 63,460 pounds. Proceed. Our trim for the engine burn plus 0.97 and minus 0.24, same as last burn. Proceed. Verb 46 to activate those changes. And we are go to sort of do a refresh there, the analogous to hitting F5. And now we'll get into our burn attitude, which is roll 358, pitch 226, yaw 346, proceed. And now the spacecraft will be maneuvering towards the lunar orbit insertion attitude. So it's going to whip us around and get that engine pointed in the opposite direction of our trajectory. Lots of preparations here today, folks. We do need to bring her down and do that P40 test right all the way down to almost the ignition point. Right then and there, we'll back out of the program, and then we will coast along until the actual point in which we do the ignition. So lots of preparations here today, folks. Lots of processes we got to check out, make sure the engine is entirely in working order. We've got to do thrust vector checks. We've got to do computer control checks. We've got to do some S-band reconfigurations. And of course, one of my favorite procedures is a pitch up and observing the lunar surface as we begin to approach. Then, of course, once we are 30 minutes later, we'll be going inertial and doing our EMS delta V tests, caution and warning check, RCS checks, engine check, electrical power system, and the environmental system. And we will be doing then our actual ignition at that point. We can see there's the moon right there and the sun coming up. And here we are, officially in attitude. So to make sure that the attitude that Houston gave us is correct, they predict that we should see star 26 if we plug in these angles into the optics. Let's take a look. And it looks like they're correct. We do, in fact, see star 26 to an agreeable margin of error. And now at this point, all we need to do is go to react on the antenna, get us to high gain, and we are going to initiate a very slight roll right here. Yeah, roll right, and we'll reacquire with Houston. So go STS, VMAX, pitch and yaw, stable, and roll will be Excel command. And let's give us a nice roll right. And I believe, yep, that should take us right into acquisition. All right, looks like we got him. Misfin acquired. Boosting signal strength there. And now we can begin our pre-thrust TVC checks. So that does require us to temporarily go into program 40, following the same procedures as the regular engine burn here. Okay, trim is looking good. Let's establish manual control. Verify no manual thrust vector control. And go on for computer. Pitch to start, yaw to start. Confirm the gimbal settings. And that trim looks good. And we can see we've got manual engine control here. So we'll take us back out. And now we just need to do one simple test of seeing if the computer can control the engine. So we give program 40 control of the computer, control of the attitude of the spacecraft again. And we are going to do the computer gimbal check. We can see the computer will automatically check the gimbals of the engines, same way that we did. And everything looks great. Now we run through the shutdown. And we'll take us back to our burn attitude, which was 358, 226, and 346. From here, the radio, of course, will lose lock. And let's take the S-band squelch off. All right, this looks like the proper configuration for me. If we did want to turn it off, this is how you would do so. I think this looks proper to me, though. We'll take it in like this. And that antenna is losing strength now. And to keep it from searching all the time, we're just going to go manual here and drive it back to its park position. All right, we are in parked position. Let's go SCS here. And get us a very nice pitch around going. We're going to pitch up at 0.2 degrees per second. for 360 degrees, and we are going to observe the lunar surface. Again, not really a whole ton we can do given the lunar module is in the way, but we do have the nice upper window here. So given the circumstances, not a whole ton of observations to be made. It's dark, lunar modules attached, can't see out the front windows, but we do have that nice porthole at the top there to look out of. So while doing this pitch around, I think I am going to just do a little bit of cleaning. This is going to take a really long time. I factor if we do 360 divided by 0.2, that gets us 1,800. And divide that by 60, that's roughly 30 minutes or so. So I will set us a timer for around 28 minutes. And actually at that point, I will have to just about head out anyways, because I will need to just go visit some people for a bit, and I will be back shortly after, maybe 30 minutes, 45 minutes at the latest. So I will put up on the stream that I'm out for a small break. So I do apologize for that, but you know, life calls and we do what we can. So I'll get us a 28-minute timer going. I'm gonna do some cleaning, and you guys can let's have a little vote here. External view or internal view for the pitch around. What do we think? External view or internal view for the pitch round? Now, it is going to take approximately 28 minutes. So, would you prefer outside or inside? Those are your options here. Look at that small Earth passing over and about to be occluded by the lunar module. Internal, okay. So in that case, we'll be looking up sort of at this angle. You can see some instrumentation, you can see the clock here, and you can see outside. And in roughly 28 minutes, I will return after this pitch around has complete. We need to pitch up at 360 degrees at 0.2 degrees per second, just to make some observations of the lunar surface through the window. So we will be returning for that. And yeah, you know, watch over the panel, make sure everything looks good. And I'll be right back. Also, Megan Runs, if you're here, thank you for the subscribe, for the public subscribe. Of course, if any of you have any questions, feel free to ask. While this pitch round is happening and while I'm having my break, I will be checking up on the stream chat to answer any questions you guys have. You can ask me about anything in the cockpit, anything about the Apollo spacecraft, and I will try to answer. So, questions are, of course, welcome here, and I think I'll even make the open for questions Open Q&A. So yes, this is the window to be looking out of at the moment, and we will be tracking the lunar surface shortly. Feel free, ask any questions. I'll be looking at the chat while I'm having my break, and I'll be able to answer them. I have a wireless microphone that gives me this amazing privilege to still interact while I'm taking break. How many parts of the simulation do I speed up versus perform in real time? So every procedure is usually performed in real time. The time in between procedures are when I increase time factor. The highest time factor I'm able to go, that anyone really is able to go, is times 100 time factor. So this would be 100 seconds per second, and this is the highest time factor we are able to take. And here, take a look. That's the moon right there. We've got the sun there, and we did, approaching the moon, have our own personal solar eclipse, which was pretty cool to watch. But yes, so most procedures are done in real time. The length between procedures is what we skip. There is one procedure which I find a bit of a hassle that I do skip a little time on, and that is the fuel cell purges. H2 purge requires a 1 and 20-second purge time, one cell at a time, and O2 purge requires a 2-minute purge time, one cell at a time. So I will activate the purge on one cell, accelerate at times 10 time factor, 2 minutes, then real time, and I switch the cells and I accelerate, and I switch the cells and then I accelerate. So this is how I do this. Otherwise, most of everything else has to be done in real time. Attitude changes are usually done at most times 10, but most of the time are done in real time. If you increase your time factor too much, things begin to break, the attitudes begin to break down, so a lot of this is done in real time. Anytime the spacecraft is also under engine thrust, has to be real time. Yes, the lunar module. We did enter the lunar module on day 3 for LEM familiarization. And that is that we look over the switch positions, we make sure everything's good. We take a look, make sure that the low taps are enabled on all the batteries. We're not having any sort of flag errors with any of that, and that the environmental control system is capable of holding its own without the O2 hose. So this is something you do in day 3. And Apollo 13 saw that in day 3. They actually did LEM familiarization on TV broadcast, which is a cool watch. So they activate the environmentals, make sure that it can sustain its own. And if it can, they power down the LEM again, close out, and there go for lunar orbit insertion. If they can't, they may decide to do lunar insertion anyways to have an Apollo 8 style mission, but they'll have to ditch the LEM and change orbits to avoid smacking into it. So the mission could change if the LEM is not go for sustaining its own power. Yes. Now that we did observe that lunar surface, I think I'm actually going to zoom out and get you guys a whole view of the entire main panel. So again, open question and answers, and I will be looking at the chat while I'm having my break here. And when my break is over, we'll do a few more things, and by that point, it's going to be almost time for me to go and visit some family for 30, 45 minutes. So at that point, I'm going to put a message up that just says away from stream, and then I'll come back later for that break. Predicted break 30, 45 minutes, at most an hour, I hope. So the simulation starts at T-minus 4 hours prior to launch. All of my Q&A videos, so I've live streamed every aspect of this mission. So all things happen before launch, yes. Of course, if you haven't seen it already, there is one time I did actually have a launch abort, which was crazy. The very first launch abort I've ever attempted. Well, attempted, was forced to do, really. So sometimes you do get a lag spike, which can cause an engine flame out. And this is exactly what happened to me, and I've had a launch abort running Apollo 9. Yeah, the launch abort was it's not a random failure by any means, but it can happen if you get a random lag spike. So always staying on your toes. Random failures can be enabled, but I always have them disabled for my historic flights. I only keep them enabled for training purposes. And it looks like we are starting to approach that 60% of the way through that pitch maneuver. So I may be going just slightly faster than 0.2 degrees per second. So if you guys can keep an eye on those yellow needles, that would be great. If you guys are wondering what my break is consisting of, just doing a little bit of some cleaning. I do really like cleaning. I find it rather cathartic. So whenever I have a little bit of downtime, I either stream or I clean. Any other questions about the command module anyone would like to ask, or questions about the lunar module? I'll try my best to answer them, of course, without actually going into the lunar module. But yeah, feel free to ask any questions. How does the guidance work? How do we know which way we're pointing? You know, any questions you guys may have about this technology. I know a lot of people don't think it's real. They're wondering how the heck do you land on the moon in the 60s? We haven't even done it today. And well, of course, we do it today a lot with autonomous satellites. And a lot of people seem to forget that landing on the moon back then, a lot of people say today, while all these computers are failing, how could we do it in the 60s? Well, you got to remember, there's a person behind that that vehicle, and while a computer will just tip over and accept life because that's what it was programmed to do, if that programming bugs out, there's nothing it can do to stop it from crashing. If that's the algorithm that you programmed, a human, of course, is able to take manual control. And in fact, in Apollo, every landing was performed with attitude manual control and computer auto throttle. You're able to, of course, save yourself and your spacecraft. So a lot of people seem to forget that, well, humans have a habit of not wanting to die, right? So this is exactly what enabled landing on the moon in the first place back then, is a very simple fact of people just don't like dying. And, I am one of those people. They also seem to forget that, these astronauts did have a lot of training, but that training could have been far off from the real experience. They've never landed on the moon before. And it's sort of like a person flying a plane, they may not be able to land a plane. Of course, landing on the moon is much simpler than landing a plane. So they may not be able to land some jumbo jet Boeing 777. But if a real life person were put in a situation of needing to at least keep the airplane from crashing, most people could sit up and, in fact, control that plane and keep it from crashing without ever having flying experience. And this is because humans have this really awesome ability to interact with something they've never seen before and have pattern recognition, which enables them to survive these sort of unexpected situations better than other animals. It's what separates us from other animals. Other animals, they talk, they communicate, they do show some signs of elevated thinking, crows especially, birds are very smart, but they just don't have this. It takes them longer. They don't have the ability to sit in front of a complex machine and just be able to intuitively operate it after a few minutes. One person asks in the comments, transposition and docking, yeah? Do you stay on auto or free for CMC switch? Auto or free? And the answer to that is to perform transposition, you're going to load your you're going to load your docking attitude into the auto maneuver system, into verb 49. And then what you're going to do is you are going to switch the manual attitude pitch to Excel command. And then from there, you are going to do a pitch up rate at 1.5 degrees per second. And then you're going to activate the auto maneuver with manual pitch on Excel command. And once that auto maneuver has established its rates on yaw and roll, you're going to take pitch back to rate command. So that's going to transfer auto maneuver capabilities back to the computer. And then the computer will align to the detransposition and docking attitude. So this is how this is done. It is not done, contrary to what the media believes, by just pitching up 180 degrees. It is not done in this fashion. It's assisted, and the only reason you need to do the manual pitch in the first place is because it's faster, right? You don't want to have all this drifting. You don't want to spend all this time drifting, because if you do, your state vector updates get messed up, right? So you want to have a nice and quick transposition and docking, something you're not going to spend 30 minutes doing, right? So that's very important. You know, transposition and docking, since you end where you start, minus the attitude, of course, but the attitude is not a factor in your state vector. You end where you start. There's no program 47 thrust monitoring or anything like that, right? So if you were to spend a really long time out there doing all these crazy maneuvers to try and dock, you are going to mess up your state vector. So that manual pitch is used to speed things up so that you can get docked as soon as possible with the freshest and cleanest state vector you can coming out of a transposition. Because, of course, after that, there is no state vector update for quite some time. So this is a factor in the procedures. Some of them are pitch over manually, of course. Apollo 8. And some of them are, if I recall correctly, maybe a few of them might have been fully automatic, but I don't remember because I haven't flown all of the Apollo missions. I only fly the ones that have MCC support in NASP, so don't quote me on that. But I think at this point, our pitch around has more than completed, most likely. So we will reactivate our auto maneuver. To our inertial attitude. And then in about another 15 minutes, we are going to start checking out our systems for lunar orbit insertion. Any other questions at all? I think so. Here's what I think. Here's what I'll ask. Should I end the stream for my 45-minute-ish break, or leave it running? That is the question. Should I end for the 45-minute break, or should I leave it running? And we have been put back into that attitude required for lunar orbit insertion. So I'll let you guys think about that question, and I'll hopefully come back to an answer. I'm going to use the restroom real quick. And when I'm back, I'll give it maybe another 15 or so minutes before I have to go. And we will at least get through with our systems checks before I leave. Is there a procedure for an escaped? Has this ever happened? I don't think this has ever happened. The procedure for this is a bag that gets taped to your backside. So I don't think this has ever happened. But the procedure would, I assume, take a waste bag, put it over your hand, turn it inside out, put it over your hand, grab it, and, same way you would pick up dog shit. So it happened on Apollo 10, really. That I didn't know. I'd never listened to the Apollo 10 tapes. But that would be the procedure, I imagine, and then any additional cleanup that may be required. Um, that would be done with however they clean up vomit, and you also put that in the solid waste bag, close it, and put it in the waste disposal thing. And I imagine that if that does actually happen, that solid waste sample is not going to be analyzed by the medics after the mission because it's gotten contaminated. But I did not actually know that. And I'm going to go back in the Apollo 10 transcript and see if I can find where that happened. Because maybe they detail what they did to fix that situation. But I too am doing a little bit of cleanup while we're waiting for our next procedure to come in. So but yeah, I too am doing a little bit of cleaning while waiting for our next procedure to come in. So, like the astronauts, the work never stops. Again, question today: do I stop the stream for the time that I'm going to go visit some family, or do I leave it running but put a message up on the screen that says that I'm gone? That's the question. If there is not any consensus, I will just probably end the stream then until I get back. Oh yeah, I absolutely bet that does sound mortifying, and they didn't even have a toilet up there. The Russians had done space toilet first. So, but no one ever talks about that. You know, that's a huge Russian achievement. Space toilet. No one talks about that. Now, this I'm almost 100% sure didn't happen and couldn't have happened unless it was Apollo 13. And the reason I say that is because when you're running program 52, right? When you're running program 52, the computer automatically acquires the stars. Same thing with any other program that needs stars, it is all auto acquired. There's no manually finding stars unless it's program 51. But a wastewater dump is done at the end of the day, and a urine dump is done at a specific time to not intrude on P51. So I'm certain that this was not an actual occurrence. I can actually demonstrate to you how the computer does program 52 if you would like. But I'm certain it was not a problem. Okay. So here we are at our systems check now. So we'll do that real quick. And then I think I'm actually going to end the stream until I get back. This way you guys are all notified of when I actually return, right? And then we'll be doing lunar orbit insertion if I have time. Otherwise, it will be pushed to another day, unfortunately. But we'll have gotten so close. Anyways, let's get those tests underway, shall we? First things first, we need to do an EMS bias check and a thrust compensation check. So bias check is good. Now we do thrust compensation check. Very good. Very good. Thrust compensation check checks out. We are good for LOI. in the EMS regards. Next up, let's check to make sure that we have nominal caution and warning. So make sure that we're getting all tones, lights, and alarms to make sure nothing's going to catch us by surprise. You know, we want to make sure that's working. Otherwise, there could be a problem we don't know about because we haven't been told. Of course, now we need to make sure our command module RCS is good. Otherwise, we need to return home, and this looks great to me. It does meet pre-pressurization conditions. Now we'll check the service module. So here look good. Quantity looks good. Good. Now we need to come back and do the helium temperature. So that's good. Good. Okay. So all RCS is looking good. And verify that these are closed because we don't have any indication. Engine temperature. All right. We do need to begin the preheat on the engines. And we need to make sure we've got sufficient helium, sufficient nitrogen on bank A, and nitrogen on bank B so that we can control those pressurization and valve positions. Make sure our helium valves are in auto, our injector valves are closed, quantity is good, the meter is good. Everything in that regard is looking good. Fuel and oxidizer pressure are great. So SPS engine is go. Electrical power system. We need to check. Cryo pressure looks great. Cryo quantity looks great. The surge tank is good. Fuel cell radiators are good. pH is good. Radiator temp is good. Flows through the fuel cells are all in the green band. Good. Let's check the DC amp power plant. Fuel cell production is good. The grid for power is good. Main buses are great. The battery production is good. And the pyros are good. And AC, bus 2, Theta Charlie, Theta Bravo, Theta Alpha are good. Bus 1, Theta Charlie, Theta Bravo, Theta Alpha are good. So all 3 phases are good. And that does complete our power plant checkout. Oh, one more thing I forgot about. Is the battery manifold vented? Yes, the battery manifold is vented. Good. That's very, very flammable gas, so we don't want to be messing with that. Environmental control system. Cabin pressure is good. Now from here, we need to check, is our cryo levels good? Surge tank is also good. And we could see we did have an automatic heat cycle. That's good. Suit's cabin delta pressure is good. O2 flow is good. Glycol systems, cooling is good. Suit compressor is good. Accumulator is good. Coolant levels good. Temperature is good. Pressure is good. CO2 partial pressure is good. And it does look like we will need to do a wastewater dump. So let's get that underway. Let's see, here's the wastewater outlet detailed on the saucer here. Ignore the date on the saucer. I use this for reference, even though this is a Apollo 15 sticker. I use this for reference. So from here, it's all about just waiting until that wastewater is dumped. And the burn does begin at 75 hours, 55 minutes. So 40 minutes from that. So at 15 minutes following the 15 minutes, we will be getting a map update. And here's that map update. So there we go. Our wastewater dump is complete. Fantastic. And with that, I think I'm going to leave us here right before lunar orbit insertion. Look at this very, very beautiful photo we've got going on. And then I'll be back shortly later. After I do some visitation of some family, I'll be back and I'll restart the stream then, and I'll give it maybe 15, 20 minutes before I do any actual procedures, make sure people have time to come back if they have time. So I'll make the save. As always, thank you for stopping by. But we will be back shortly, very shortly, in maybe about 45 to an hour, and we will do that lunar orbit insertion. So, Istvan, I will be back today. I will be back today. Okay. I'll see you guys then. Thank you. Yeah, much apologies about that. I know you just joined. So I do apologize, but I've got some family to visit. It's very important business. So apologies. I'm just going to detail the necessary pads so that I have them for next time. All right. Thank you guys for stopping by, and I'll be back in probably an hour. So I'll see you guys then. YouTube delays the stream. Like, what do you mean? Like, you just got the notification? Because delay on the stream, I factor to be roughly 20 seconds, which is pretty normal. So unless it's the notification, I don't know. I do have stream latency manually set to low latency, and the reason is because I like the visual fidelity. I don't want normal latency because I find the chat falls behind. And I don't want ultra low latency because I find the video quality looks like shit. So I have it set to low latency. So if this is what you, yes, 5 minutes ago, no notifications. I just bumped over to it in the feeder. Yeah, that I have no idea. I have no idea about that. But if you would like to rejoin, here, I'll tell you what. I'll schedule the next stream. I'll schedule the next stream. At most, Apollo 11 lunar orbit insertion part 2. At most, this will be let's schedule for sometime around 5:30. There. This should allow you to be able to this should allow you to be able to see it. But just know if that doesn't work at about an hour from now, just hit that refresh, come to my channel and join in if you would like. But we will be back in an hour. So thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you all in an hour, and we will be inserting into lunar orbit. Yeah. Thanks, Eastfun.